Hey everyone, it's Bumblebee, and I talk about everything hiking, backpacking, and camping. So if these topics interest you, please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and hit the bell icon to get notification when I upload new content. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than what I typically do. It's not a gear review, it's not a hiking video, it's going to be a tutorial. It's probably going to be a little long. This is going to be part one, and what I'm doing is a tutorial on the Costco down underquilt for a hammock. This isn't your typical one that you normally see. It's not a no-sew. This one does involve a sewing machine, but don't be intimidated. It's not as hard as you might think. But this is going to involve a differential cut. So it's going to be more like your underquilts that you're going to actually buy from a store or a cottage company. So it's going to have a curve to it. It's going to kind of hug your hammock. So it's not the square or rectangle that you're used to seeing on other videos. So let me get this camera turned off. I'll get all the materials that I have that I'm going to be using, and we'll start the tutorial. So I'll leave a link to all the materials that I got for this in the description down below. So first off, one of the most important things you're going to need is you're going to need the packable down throw from Costco. So it does come in a 2-pack, and so the one I got is the Blue Ridge Active. It's what they've got right now. You can buy it on their website. If you don't have a Costco membership, do not worry. There is it's a small extra fee. It's not very much, but it's not a bad price for both of these. So when you average it out, it's only like 20 something a piece, but I will include the price in the link for this. So I did go with the purple. There's 2 colors currently. There is the purple and blue, I believe. But when you take it out of the package, so it comes rolled up, not in the included sack. So what you'll see is you'll find that there's a shiny side, and then there is a dull side. So when I lay this out, I am going to have the shiny side down, you know, just kind of, I don't know, it's like a little more plasticky type. So not that it's really more water resistant, but you know, it just kind of gives me the feel that it might be, in case it is. But this is going to be covered anyways with another piece of material I have. And so, and I don't really want the shiny side facing up. So I like the more dull side facing up. Just kind of has a little better aesthetic to it. So this is the main piece, and really we're using this more like a sheet of insulation instead of creating an outside and an inside layer and filling it with insulation. This is going to be the sheet of insulation. Just already has one layer of the fabric that we're really needing for the top layer of it. And when we do this, a lot of people will take the stitching out of a row to make those vertical baffles. I'm not going to do that. It will give you more loft if you do, but this will save some time. But this is going to be more of a little warmer weather underquilt for me. So, as I said, I'm using another piece of fabric. So this is a ripstop nylon by ripstop by the roll. So I have a charcoal gray, and you can go to their website. So I believe I got 3 yards of this. I'm not going to need 3 yards, but it's always nice to have some extra. And what this is kind of really going to do on the bottom side, it's going to take where those seams are running through there. It's going to take it's going to make a little bit of a insulating barrier, so you're not going to get that draft through those, and it's going to kind of make a little underquilt protector. So it serves multiple purposes. You will also need some cord locks. I have some double cord locks, and I have some single cord locks. And you'll also need a couple lightweight S-beaners. You'll need some shock cord. And I've got some Grow Gain. And I'll use the Grow Gain on the double cord locks, where I'm going to fasten them on. My double cord locks are sew-on type, so I'll fasten them on. So the original intention with this is what I'm going to use to make my channels to run my shock cord through. But I can also use my material here as well. So I haven't fully decided if I'm using this or not. It is going to be a bit of a contrast. Not that it's a beauty contest or anything out there, so I haven't fully decided if I'm using this or not. But it is a little more durable, I think, with the shock cord being moved around through. So we'll see. Another thing we need is we have some directions. And one just went away. But there's directions. There's a DIY gear that has the directions on the layout with the cutting pattern and everything. So I will get that pulled back up. I don't really have access to hook this up to a printer, so I have it on here. I will just find that link again. It kind of got shut off on me while I was sitting here, so oops. Technical errors, they do happen, but it does have to lay out. So the quilt itself is basically a 60 by 70 quilt. So each square is a 5-inch square. So you can measure it out quickly by counting the squares. So the directions that I'm going by, it's doing the length of 60 inches. So I'm a bit of a tall person, and even though this is a warmer weather underquilt, I am probably going to alter that as well, and instead of cutting the narrow end from the 70 inches, I'm probably going to end up cutting the narrow end from the 60 inches and have a bit of a longer underquilt. This way, I want to be still lightweight and not have to carry something to put underneath my calves and feet in the in the hammock, and my feet still won't be covered, but technically if I scoot the underquilt down to my feet, I have a pillow and everything, so I might be able to manage with the underquilt a little bit further down and the pillow and everything on my head and stuff, and still stay warm. So let me get everything laid out here, get the website back up. I'll include the link for that in the description, and then we'll start marking this out to get it ready to be sewed up. Okay, so we have our down throw laid out here, and we are going to start laying it out. With our directions we're looking at, we need to know how wide, at the widest point, that we're going to do. The directions is for a layering system. So I am going to go with 46 because I am taller and I do like to lay at a wider diagonal. And so we need to find the center of this down quilt that we're going to make. So we know that this is 60 inches wide, 60 by 70, and we are going to make this 70 inches long. So now, you know, when we sew things up, it's going to make it a little bit shorter in length. But so since it's 60 inches wide, and we know each one of these squares is 5 inches. And since we know that there's 12 squares here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right here is the center point. But we're going to go ahead and make a mark there so that we can really see it anyways. All right. And so it's still longer than 46 inches, but half of 46 is 23. So from that center point, we are going to go over and mark, make a mark 23 inches, and we will do that make a mark every so often down the quilt here. So keeping an eye that we are still at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. This way, we are going to continually make a continuous line down. Because we're going to have to sew this off. When we do sew this off, we're going to make 2 lines of stitches. And the reason for making the 2 lines of stitches is, alright, we're going to sew right there on that line, and then we're going to come over about a ½ an inch. We're close to that, but you know, so we might try to get as much of that down over as we can. But like when we make this center cut, because we're going to have to make a center cut to get this curve in it, so that differential cut, we need 2 lines of stitching so there's a gap and we can make the cut in there and we don't lose a bunch of the down that's in this. But we'll repeat this on both sides here. And I'll do that here in just a second. Actually, let me get back over here. And I'll do that off the camera. But, so, we'll go ahead and set up our center here. And we're going to need to make a diamond, or a triangle here from the center. And we need 4 inches here in the center. So mark 2 inches on each side. All right. Make sure you got that very well. And then we're going to go 12 inches up. Now, I'm going to mark this right here. Okay, so we got a little mark right here. And see, I'm not really worried that these marks are dark, kind of clunky and large, because this is the bottom, right? It's going to be covered here, so we will go. Because remember, I've got a piece of ripstop nylon, and we're going to do the same thing with it. We're going to lay it out just like this. We'll do that a bit later. Yeah, so we have a little triangle right here, right? And so this triangle, when we cut this out, we're going to sew it together. And it's going to create this curve here. So if you look at normal underquilts, it's narrower at each end and it's wider in the center. And that's what this is going to create. And so when you have it on the hammock, it makes the underquilt curve and just kind of hug that hammock. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the rest of this out. I'm going to do this triangle on the other side. I'm going to lay out the other end like I did this one, and then I am going to take it to the sewing machine. So hopefully you can see that all right. There is some background noise going on, so I do apologize for that. There's laundry and stuff. So we got it set up into the sewing machine. So you want to make sure you get as much of the down, since there's not much between this other stitching, we're going to try to get as much of the down onto this side of the line that we made. This way that the presser foot doesn't get bunched up. And there is a heavy seam here on the edge. So we're going to have to kind of get a good run started to get it moving. We're going to get a couple stitches here going, and then we're going to do we're going to lock stitch it, so we're going to do a reverse stitch here. So we got that in here. My machine, I have to push a button here, and it does a couple lock stitches and stops, so it's locked in. And so from here we are going to do a straight line stitch all the way down our line to the end. I'm not going to go super fast. I'm not the best sewer here. And once we get to the end, we're going to lock that back in and then cut it off, and we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. And once we do that, then we'll do I'll video the centerpiece, but I won't video what we do on the other side. So, but to give you an idea of what I am doing here. So, like I said, I'm going to move as much of the down over as I can and keep this as straight as I can. And just sew right down that line. In each square, I'm going to kind of stop and get as much of that down over as I can. So I'll do a couple more squares here, and then I'll shut the video off so I can finish this off. But as I was talking about before, and I'm probably going to do it with this as well, I'm going to do 2 lines of stitching here. So I'm going to come back and probably about a ½ an inch or so over. Maybe not even that far. What I'm probably going to do is just line up this side of my presser foot here with this line of stitching, and I'm going to run another line down this. And then what that's going to do, it's going to allow me to be able to cut a line, and any of the down that I may not be able to get pushed over, it's going to be able to stay in here. There might be a little bit that's in between there, but it's not going to be much, and it's going to keep some of the mess down out, you know, from just all the feathers going all over the place. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and once I go and start sewing the little triangle part that's going to make where it's a differential cut, I will start filming again. So now we're going to make this center triangle, right, that we are actually going to be cutting out. So we are going to do 2 lines of stitching. We're going to do the outside, and then we're going to come back and do the inside. So you are making a diagonal stitch here, so it's still a straight line, but your fabric is at a diagonal, so you want to make sure you keep it as straight as possible. Get as much of the down over as you can, right? And take your time with this one, right? So, but as before, you want to get a couple stitches in, do your lock stitch, right? So with my machine, it stops, right? And then just, like I said, take your time, do a nice slow stitch, follow that line, Alright. Make sure the material just feeds straight. Want to try pushing some more of that down over. Right. As you get closer to the point, you're not really going to get much down. Right. And of course, if you sew a lot, you'll be a lot faster than I am. And you'll probably say, hey, she's doing this all wrong. But I've sewn a little bit. I haven't had any problems with anything falling apart on me with the way that I do it. My mom cringes on my sewing, but she's been doing it forever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to lift my needle and I'm going to pull that up, and I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to come on the other side back to that. So I'm not going to try turning the material and sewing back to it. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but I got a line of stitching all the way down to the end of that triangle. So we get it set up again. All right. That presser foot down. Push the needle down. A couple stitches. All right. Do that locking stitch. And then we are going to feed it straight. And this is puffy material, so as you see when the presser foot pushes down on it, you can see it bunches up a little bit. Not really quite sure how to alleviate that. Just do it as best as you can. That's kind of why you want to kind of get all that down out of the way. So we made it back to the point where we stopped on the first one. Let's do a locking stitch. Don't remember if I did a locking stitch on the other one. Might not have, but we'll do it this time. With the needle. We're going to repeat. And I didn't show you on the outside. But basically, we are going to do the same thing again. So, this time, instead of on the line, I am going to bring the edge of my presser foot here, right on the edge of that stitch. Right. It's not as big of a deal here to do a locking stitch, because this piece here I'm not going to use. I'm going to throw it away once I cut it out. I have no need for it, so I am just going to just follow the line, keeping the edge of the presser foot on that stitch that I made. And you'll see here, once I get done, I'll explain why. No, I kind of did before. What I'm doing here. So, lift the needle, pull this out, and we'll do the same thing on this side. So as you can see, there's two lines of stitching running there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back through and cut in between those. But we're going to cut close to this stitch here, but without actually cutting it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off, and I'm going to sew this other side of this quilt, this exact same thing. Now it's sewed and cut. So it should look something like this. So now we need to sew this together. So I'm going to pin it together, and then we're going to do a hem and sew this together. So let me get that pinned together, and then we'll get it on the sewing. As you can see, there's some down sticking out. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, it's just part of it. You can't get all the down on over across your seams, so there it's going to come out. It's just part of it. You know, over time. So like I said, you want to get a couple stitches in, and you're going to do that locking stitch. All right, we're just going to slowly come down. You want to make sure that, you know, the triangle is lined up and those edges are together. And you're just going to make a hem, add a couple pins. It's like a 1/4 inch in, so it's half of the width of that presser foot. So once we get right up to this pin, I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to pull it out. You don't want to go through with your pin because you'll damage your needle of the sewing machine. And so I'm just keeping the edge of the material right there on the edge of that presser foot. Right. And so right about there is where the end of that triangle is, and I'm just going to go just a little bit past that. and then put in that locking stitch. Raise my needle. Cut it off, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So that's it for part 1. When I come back, we will pick up where I left off, which will be working with the ripstop nylon. We'll be basically doing the same thing with it, but then we'll be adding the pieces where the shot cord goes through and kind of putting it all together. I'll quickly talk about the layout with the ripstop nylon. It's a little bit different than the with the down throw, but not that much different. I won't really go over the sewing like I did with this one because it's basically the same thing with one slight variation, but I can talk about it and you should get the general idea of what's going on there. And we'll get everything kind of put together, and then we will have another video where we will put the underquilt into use. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it inspires you to possibly try this yourself. It is a little bit more intensive than just the regular tutorials where they're doing the straight rectangle square type, the no-sew type videos that are out there. So, but don't be intimidated by it. It's not that hard. So, like I said, I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.